The cases within Detective Conan that are related to some Japanese myths and legends will always be terrifying, especially the viewing experience, as well as dark background colors in the early days of those episodes, which made my heart skip a beat no less than riding a roller coaster when I was a child. The case this time is a story that had left an impression on me very much. The 52nd episode of the anime, Conan's second 1-hour special, The Mist Goblin Legend Murder Case. At the beginning of the case, the three-member group, as always, Uncle Mori, Ron, and Conan, went to a certain mountain for a trip. Then the car had a flat tire on the way back. I finally know why you guys never want to buy a car. 2 tires punctured at the same time, not enough spare tires, and the cost for the tire repairs committed by Uncle Mori for more than half a year has far exceeded the original value of the car itself. The mascot, Grim Reaper, and Car Killer are stuck in this rainy night with nowhere to go. At this time, Conan found a temple with a waterfall next to it not far away, and the family decided to spend the night there. The interior of the temple is spacious and clean, with it not looking like it had been abandoned. Ron shouted a few words, and an old man appeared behind the 3 people. The long beard, pointed nose, and protruding bald head of the old man in a straw raincoat roared for the 3 to go back, like a beast protecting its territory from invaders. But when he heard that these 3 people were not the TV station that came to interview, but tourists who came to stay here, the attitude of the old man changed immediately, ignoring the incident mentioned earlier, and happily discussing the issue of the accommodation fee with them. 2 adults plus 1 child is 28,000 yen including dinner, which is about less than $200 at the current exchange rate of the depreciating yen, which is quite a bargain. However, this was in Japan more than 20 years ago. For the poor Uncle Mori, it may have been better to sleep in a car. The older you are, the wiser you get. This host tells the legend that had been circulating on this mountain for a long time. Every time on a foggy night, this ancient monster will be awakened, looking for and devouring the souls of living people. In front of a beast like that, a bear can only be called cute. He is called the Kiritengu, a monster that exists in legend. As soon as the words fell out of their mouths, the sound of thunder came from outside. This time, even a materialist like Conan and Uncle Mori were shocked. Then he suddenly changed back to the tone of business and introduced several other Buddhist disciples in this temple who were practicing. Starting off with the monk who had been training the longest, Conan, also known as the monk version of Kuro Shinichi. In charge of cooking, and being one of the strongest, is Tonen, also known as the monk version of Kojima Genta. As the ingenious individual, Mokunen, also known as the monk version of Tsuburaya Mizuhiko, and the one that has been training for the least amount of time while having a smart mind. Well, if it isn't Sato Masao, you finally graduated from the Sunflower class. From the abbot's words, the 4 Buddhist disciples were instructed to take the guests to visit the temple, preventing the guests from opportunities to chat, then logically wanting them to live there. This host is certainly something. Not only responsible for entertaining guests, but also hosting funeral services from check-in to their graves. Since the god of death has been entertained this time, one of these 5 people will enjoy the service. During the visit, Conan found a small room with a lock. The setup of the room was unusual. The dim environment, the solid walls with lacquered paint, as well as the extra high ceiling and windows, felt that this was not a room for people to live in, but a cell used to lock something in. Shunen introduced this room as a reflection room for Buddhist disciples who break the rules. There is a small area on the wall where the color of the wood is different from other places, which aroused Conan's curiosity. When Shunen explained to him that the place was caused by a previous incident, he was interrupted by Conan angrily, and changed the topic, continuing to take them on the tour. As expected of the one who has trained for the longest time, this move is exactly the same as the host's. There is a waterfall near the window of that room. The water flows through the temple and brings a few cherry blossoms with it, which are very elegant. Add in the wooden floors that can withstand the flow of the waterfall, and it's well worth the money. Compared with the beautiful scenery, the arrangement of the dinner is a little shabby, which at least should be a decent experience for the travelers. Ron enthusiastically asks about the daily lives of the monks. Unlike the original boring stereotype, the monks here are quite interested in entertainment. Within the temple, there are rubber boats and beach balls specially prepared for going to the beach, with the host also being interested in women's bikinis. Why don't you go on ahead and talk with Uncle Mori about both your experiences? Conan had no interest in this, and instead asks about the Kiritengu legend mentioned previously by the host. Stop pretending to be a kid here. Don't think that I don't know that in a few months, your phone search history would include a photo of Ron in a swimsuit.
Special sexy shot? これって。ランの話でと。
わってるよ。消しゃいいんだろ。じゃな。
保存。
Apparently, the topic of the Kiri-tengu is sensitive within this temple. Kiri translates from Japanese as fog, while Tengu is a powerful demon who is said to have a red face, a long nose, and huge wings behind him. Kiri-tengu appears in foggy days looking for his prey. Strong limbs allow him to tear through walls and climb trees to enjoy his dinner. This kind of monster that mixes several kinds of beasts is just a method used by the host to fool the guests. Even so, for a few of the Buddhist disciples, there seems to be something hidden behind all this. Conan's detective radar responded to their distressed attitude, then shocked everyone by revealing the name of a sleeping Kogoro. The Buddhist disciples are all looking forward to him for being able to solve a certain incident that happened 2 years ago, only the host expressed firm objection, demanding the disciples to get ready for sleep, and advising the guests to leave tomorrow morning. Back in the guest room, Ron was still thinking about the Kiri-tengu legend just mentioned, and Conan told her about the origin of this legend. Tengu comes from ancient China. In the past, the huge sound made by a meteorite hitting the earth was recognized by people as a dog in the sky. It sounds a bit strange. What does a stone falling from the sky have to do with a dog? Well, in the age of underdeveloped technology, the Chinese believed that the moon would disappear during a lunar eclipse because it was eaten by a dog. So people beat gongs and drums to scare the dog away in order to release the moon. From this perspective, it's normal to consider a stone falling from the sky as a dog in the sky. After some abbreviations, the dog in the sky became the heaven dog, which is pronounced Tengu in Japanese, and spread to Japan. No matter which country, this phenomenon is regarded as a harbinger of disaster. P.S. In modern Buddhist culture, the image of the Tengu has softened a lot, becoming a guardian spirit, or an ascetic practice of Shugendo. Hearing this, Ron pretended to be calm and secretly occupied the middle quilt, claiming that if Conan was scared, they could sleep together. So what's going on here? Do you want him to get insomnia or anemia? With some doubts still lingering on their minds, everyone fell into a dreamland nonetheless. Ron woke up at 2 in the morning. She didn't dare to get up and go to the bathroom alone, so she called the others up to go with her. It happened that there was a Tengu mask in the bathroom, so the naughty Ron put it on, then appeared behind the two to forcibly wake up the half-asleep Uncle Mori. His screams were heard throughout the temple, and Conan was afraid that something had happened. As a result, everyone had a long night. The sun came up the next day, and the mental state of several Buddhist disciples was not as good as yesterday's. Shunan was reading all night, while Tonan and Mokunen were scared by yesterday's screams, not being able to fall asleep at all. Suddenly, another scream came, and everyone hurried to the training room, where the sound came from, where they saw Conan collapse on the floor weakly. At the end of his fearful gaze, the host was hanging several meters above the ground. A police car arrived at the temple, and this time it was again Inspector Megure, who was in charge of handling the case. Looking at his long-retired colleague in front of him, whose case participation rates can somehow get a full attendance award, he was speechless. Now he should focus on the case, beginning to question Conan, who was the first to discover the body. Conan said that when he woke up this morning, they found that the host was gone, and after he went searching everywhere, he found the body hanging from the ceiling. Conan asks how he found it so quickly. People usually don't look up very often when they're looking for someone, unless they know that the person they're looking for is right now hanging from the ceiling. Just when Mori sees Conan as the first suspect, Mokunen rushes to cover, mentioning to them that a similar incident had occurred in this room 2 years ago, which also just so happened to be the responsibility of Inspector Megure. 2 years ago, there was another trainee named Chunen in this temple. On a rainy night like yesterday, Chunen was practicing in this room. When others came in the next day, they found a big hole in the wall, while Chunen had disappeared inexplicably. The others spent 3 days without being able to find him, believing that he had hidden his tracks and escaped. On day 4, Conan and Mokunen came to fix the big hole in the wall when they realized that Chunen had never left the room, but rather had been staring at them from the ceiling the whole time. Whether it's 2 years ago or the event today, all the details appear to be exactly the same, even the broken walls being similar. According to the carpenter who came to repair it, it would have taken a normal person a whole day to make such a big hole. In addition, using some kind of strange force to be able to bring a victim weighing hundreds of pounds to the ceiling beams several meters above the ground seemed to be something only the legendary monster Kiri-tengu could do.